Hey everybody, old folks here. So with my video I did a week or so ago about legendaries, I was asked, what's some of the weaknesses of the legendaries, and who you pick, who you play, things like that. So I want to kind of go over each one individually real quick. Not going to go into a ton of depth, obviously, but I'm going to share you my thoughts. You can take this as you want. You can agree with me, disagree with me. Everybody's got a little bit of a different opinion, different gameplay, so let's just jump right into it. We'll start off with Gerber. Now, Gerber, obviously, if you know anything about him, he's got the 4 skills. He's got an awakening now. He's getting better. For a free tank, he's not bad, but he does take some time to get, obviously, if you're going the free route, because all his soul stones come from the Abyssal Treasure. Now, if we take a look at him, and we look at some of his stuff here, he's dealing magic damage, and he gets a copy of that person. It was pretty cool because... especially in the crystal dungeons, you used to be able to steal the shield guy and get the shield the whole time till it died. Not anymore. They fixed that. His soul hammer strikes the ground, creates a shockwave. It does magic damage, which is kind of nice. It's a little bit of AE, but sometimes the positioning's terrible, and so you only get one hero. This deflects 3 attacks back, and it's 50% reflected back, plus whatever bonus is. So it's kind of nice because sometimes he can reflect it. And then he also gets himself some armor every time he casts it. And then obviously with his new ultimate, if you play Overwatch, Reinhardt's shield, it's basically like that. It does pretty good, I've heard. I don't have him awoken. But, the problem with him is he's just not an in-game tank when we think about it. He's gotten better with his shield. But you're going to notice, first of all, it's hard to get stars because of how long it takes. So it's going to take a long time to get him 5-starred. And B, he just melts pretty easy. He doesn't have a lot of crowd control. And crowd control is big. I mean, that's really huge. And so he's got to survive that initial burst, which sometimes he doesn't, until he gets started up. His team compositions are kind of different. Some people run him on a magic team. I've seen him ran with the Merlin for the lifesteal aspect since he's doing magic damage. But, it's just one of those things where he struggles to fit into a team. So he's not bad. He just isn't as great as some of the other tanks out there. The last real freebie here that we have is Thanos. Now, people always say I give Thanos a bad time, and I'm going to say he's not bad. He does damage. They say, well, he's like a Mira, except he takes a whole lot longer to get. Because if you're a free person, you're not getting a ton of arena stones. So he takes forever to get. All he does is damage, and the damage is okay. It gets better at 5 stars and up. But he doesn't have any control skills. There's no stuns, there's no sleep, there's no anything like that. It's just, I'm going to do damage. And the damage really does kind of lack in some ways until later, and his hit points are the same way, and it's hard to get stars. Now, he does have an awakening, just like Gerber, and they take a ton of resources to get, so for a legit person to get, you're looking at a couple of months before he's awoken. At that point, he does get more damaging, which is kind of cool, but again, still... he is limited in his ability because a lot of times it takes a while to get that damage going. He has to get to his ultimate. And if he doesn't get to his ultimate, you're really going to miss out on the damage. And so a lot of times he's not going to get to it. Sometimes he does. And even then it's still not as great compared to other legendaries. And that's the thing here. We're talking legendaries. I'm not talking about other heroes. I'm talking legendaries. So when it comes to a legendary, he's kind of on the weak end. Yeah, he's free. Yeah, he's not bad. Just, it's a long trip to get him where you want him. Sizo. You got to have money. That's the only way you're going to get Sizo. I mean, people are like, well, you got him free, yay, I got him out of this. Yeah, you might get lucky, but to get him 5-star and above, you're going to have to spend money. It's just how it's going to have to work. And he's well worth it. If you've ever seen a 4-star awaken Sizo with all his gear, destroy an entire team because he can stay alive, regenerating health because they lost their DPS. That's what Sizo does. He's a great kind of front row-ish tank. He's not a true full tank. You really want to partner him with someone usually. Some people don't. And he does really great. Now his ultimate's awesome. It can deflect some of the stuff that comes at him. He deals damage. He heals himself. He regenerates energy when he hits his enemies. He does energy and he increases magic resistant armor, so he helps himself be, tankier and especially once he's awoken, he gets really good. But again, he's very costly. That's probably one of his big negatives, and usually you got to partner him with another tank. If you run into a real good burst team, it's going to tear him to pieces. He goes up against the Wings of Origin team, he's going to get tore up, gone right at the start. So, you're going to have to run him with somebody that can protect him from that. So he's not bad, but just expect to drop a lot of money on a size, though. Obviously, Monk's Son, one of the easiest legendaries to get in the sense of once you're VIP 8, cheaper than all the other people that you have to get from the Wishing Well to get. And the advantage of Monk's Son is that he has a lot of crowd control and a lot of health. That's one of his skills. He gets extra health, which makes him even more tankier. But you've got an ultimate which stuns everybody. You've got a knock-up which knocks him into the air a bit, which does it. And he's also lowering armor in the people in the front line. So he's great in his ability to do crowd control. So not only do you have a tank with a lot of hit points, but you got a tank with a lot of crowd control abilities. Now, that said, he's kind of a one-trick pony, or maybe a one-trick monkey. He only does one thing: knock people up and stun them. There's nothing special about that. He's not going to drop a ton of damage. Size on him. Size is going to tear him apart. So he's good at what he does. Damage is okay. So you're going to have to work with a team that can capitalize on his ability to do crowd control, taking advantage of every one of those moments. You partner him, a lot of times you'll see with a Blaine and an Edwin together because there's a ton of knockups going on. There's a ton of people being interrupted and disrupted, and that's what he's about. That's what makes him strong, but also at the same time kind of makes him weak because of his kind of lackluster damage that he does. Chyron, I picked up Chyron the other week. Dropped a little bit onto him. Don't want to talk about that. Chyron is really growing on me. I never got him until recently just because I was like, man, I've already got Monk's Son. What do I need another tank for? And this is the rich man Chavez with some phenomenal abilities. His ability to increase his dodge, knocking everybody in the air, doing a lot of damage too. He hits 3 times, knocks the person back some. He jumps in, knocks him up. So again, you see there's this constant knock up that he's doing, and his ability to dive that back line. Also, the cool thing about him is his strength and his armor and his magic, which is really cool. And then his Orange 2 item just builds off of that. Adding more hit points based off of magic and armor. I mean, he just makes a great tank. Weaknesses, he's going to cost. He's not as expensive as Sizo per se. He's a good frontline tanker. He's a good disruptor. But realize once he jumps in, sometimes the other tank sometimes comes into your midline. So sometimes if he's your only tank, they're going to pierce your line when he jumps back. So you just kind of have to watch that. It's kind of like Chavez. Chavez's jump is real good because he jumps and stuns. So usually that tank doesn't move. Sometimes Chyron jumps and goes to somebody in the back row, and the tank says, "I'll see you later," and proceeds to move to your midliners and start to tear them up. So kind of one of the disadvantages. But overall, he's a really good tank. I've really enjoyed him over the last period of time that I've been using him for this past week. So that kind of moves us here to Teresa. I want to talk about Teresa a little bit. She's great. She's phenomenal. She can almost counter a smoke, but at least keep him busy. She'll shut down a single tank's ability with her silences, her scorch buffs. She's obviously doing really great. She increases her own power, and then she's got that awesome whirlwind effect. Now, what does that mean? It means for the most part she's going to attack the person in the front, which means she's not attacking the people in the back. She's going to cast her ultimate on the closest people, which with computer control is sometimes not a great thing. When you could cast it and hit 4 people in the back, she doesn't do that. She is a little squishy. Obviously, the more stars she has, the more health she has, but her and Smoke going head to head, it's kind of sometimes who gets the crit on a Smoke kind of thing to wins. But she is really good. She does cost more because you have to get her out of the Soulstone Wishing Well for the VIP 8 guys, and it's going to take you more compared to someone like a Smoke or a Chyron or any of those other guys. Her real big weakness, though, is really just her. It's kind of a single focus on who she's hitting, but that's also strength because, like I said, if there's one tank or Smoke, she does a great job at really minimizing what they do. Smoke, on the other hand, everybody loves Smoke. Everybody hates Smoke. He's that backline guy that doesn't show up at the beginning of the fight till a few seconds at the back. He'll attack whatever's closest to him, whether it be a totem, whether it be a person, whether it be a ghost from a person using their orange one item, the Wailing Frost thing. But, you know, I mean, he does damage. Now, the problem is he's squishy. Now, some people have gone with the Behemoth set to give him a shield to help him stay alive a little bit longer. Other people say, hey, if he's going to die, let's go big, and they run the Dragon set on him with the full intent of getting as much damage as they can as quick as they can. Now, he'll do a ton of crits, especially depending upon how you build him. And his ability to tear into a back row that can't handle him is phenomenal. But you have to watch out for counters. Teresa or a Wreck, or even if a guy runs a tank like Tiger Boy Leon there, he'll taunt him off the back. Then suddenly, all that damage you were hoping for was for naught. So, while he's good, he does have his few issues that sometimes you can't do anything about. The good news is he's cheap in the sense of buying legendaries, because he is not purchased through the main well, but purchased through the top part. So he can be had for cheaper and can do pretty good damage. The other perk of him is he is part of the Wings of Origin team, which allows for some phenomenal damage. Now, Robin. Who doesn't love a candy carrying, I don't know what he is, throwing out candy, turning into a magic beast, dropping an ice storm. I don't even know, is that like a fart? It just comes out of him. Nobody knows where it comes from. I don't even know where he gets candy from. And I don't want to know where he gets the candy from. But we'll leave that alone. I love Robin. He's got a special place in my heart. Obviously, his ultimate does turn him into a rampaging monster, which brings down the house, literally. He is a marksman, so he does do well with people like Wreck. People are surprised at sometimes how well he does with Wreck. His candy thing here, he throws one for himself, regains energy, and he lowers the energy of the other person. Works well with a Vortex, because Vortex gets, you know, points off of that. His candy bag, he can randomly charm one enemy. The charmed person will then turn on his own teammates. This can be useful sometimes. It works well, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. And then finally, he gets extra energy from basic attacks, which means basically the dude gets his ultimate pretty quick. But once he's in his ultimate stage and he jumps and he knocks up, it's kind of, you know, dependent upon your team at that point. He becomes another meat shield. And while he's there, he's not getting these other skills, which sometimes I would prefer the charm, again, over a big rampaging guy that's not doing necessarily a ton of damage versus, you know, somebody that's charming their own team, bringing it from a 5v5 to a 6v, you know, 4. Nothing you can do about it. You can't control that. You know, that's probably one of the cool tricks if you're actually using him in the ladder, is when to use the ultimate. You know, making sure he got the charm off first before you drop the ultimate. So he's got a few issues with the skills. Once he transforms, you're pretty much hosed, waiting until he comes back. Now, Ariel, this is a tough one to say anything bad about. Not only is she a beautiful woman, who doesn't love a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, she's got phenomenal skills. You know, you look at her ultimate. I'm going to increase the damage to the person I choose for 6 seconds by 15%, which can be huge. You'll see her used a lot in Sky City and other locations. She's casting a shield. Now, this is pretty awesome. You know, it's a physical shield. So that's kind of a weakness. It doesn't work versus magic. It works versus physical. So if somebody's dropping AE magic, it ain't going to do a thing. But if you got somebody like Mira on the other side, it's going to do a phenomenal job stopping Mira. So it's really good against physical teams. Just remember that shield's good against physical, not magical. Now, she also summons 3 little things. They shoot out. They drain energy off of them. Helps Vortex, by the way, which is why I see her with a lot of Vortexes. And so that keeps them from getting their ultimates faster, which is always better for your team. And then finally, her basic attacks drain energy. Now, a lot of times you'll see people run her with the Frost Whale. So there's 2 of them, doing multiple people, draining multiple energy, helping to keep them from getting their ultimates while you get yours. Problem is, she costs a lot, and you need to star her up. Now, at 3 stars, she's not bad. She's just squishy. But obviously, the more stars you get her, the better she gets. She's just not as strong against magic teams because the shield doesn't do you any good compared to a physical team. So just keep that in mind. Lilith, gosh, you want to love Lilith. You really do. I mean, I have her and I don't want to talk about it. So basically, she's good in some stages, but in the arena, she really falls off late game. Now, you're going to see some teams have her, and she's not bad, but you really got a 5-star, gold star, basically, her. And realize you're looking for a team that's going to last long. So against a burst team that blows her up real quick, she's going to die. But against a fight where it goes over a minute, usually you're going to win. A lot of times you'll see fights with teams with her and Sizo, because they're both long-term fighters. The longer they're alive, the better chance you have of winning. And so that's kind of what she does. You know, she's marking people. When they cast skills, they take damage and they heal her. She deals magic damage to random people, and she's getting the curse. So this whole time she's stacking curse on them. And of course, when she gets her ultimate, she detonates all those curses and they cause damage. So of course, each curse Lilith has increases her ability power. And when her hit points drop below 30%, she removes all the blood curses and she gets more hit points back. So it's not bad, but again, she's not a bursty person. She can do a lot of damage through her second skill, where people are casting and they're causing themselves to take damage. But just remember, the longer the fight, the better. The shorter the fight, the worse it usually is. So again, she's going to cost you more money because of where she comes from. Now, Rams has recently been added to the rotation. You can now get him pretty cheap. I'm not going to lie, this guy's phenomenal for Crystal Dungeon and a lot of other areas. But in PvP arena stuff, you really got to build a special team around him. Again, he's a great asset in some of the things like Delphos inside the Subteria. But you're not going to see a lot of playtime with him outside of the rare occasional guy in the arena. Does that mean he's bad? No. It's just that the majority of people find other heroes that, let's be honest, if I've got to spend my hard-earned gems on, that are going to have more uses in the arena. Because this game truly is about really one team. People think I need 3 teams. You don't. When the end comes to it, you want one really good team. He's not going to be on it. It's not a bad thing. He's just not going to be on it. People said, what about an All Awoken and, you know, Emily, Alma, all these, you know, it just doesn't happen. So he's a great thing to have. I don't raise him anymore because I'm really not progressing far in Crystal Dungeon right now. It is what it is. So I love your Rams, but after a certain point, you just sit the bench, and that's where he sat for quite some while. Edwin is the guy of choice for a lot of new heroes. Obviously, you're going to see him stacking again with Monk Sung early on and a Blaine, trying to control that arena position, trying to hold #1, trying to gain all the gems they can. But I'm going to be honest, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have bought Edwin. Because there's one hero by the name of Crash who's free that shuts him down. There's nothing worse than bringing your hard-earned team of diamonds into the arena and getting shut down by a free hero. He's not bad. He's got great synergy with knock-up heroes, knock-up people. You build a knock-up team. They spend a lot of time held in taking extra damage. But apart from that, if they've got Crash on the other side, you basically don't have anything special. So his damage is good, and they've made him a little bit tankier, but there's nothing worse than being shut down by a free hero that's designed to stop this guy. I used to love him. I really used to love him. Now I'm just like, why did I ever buy Edwin? He's great on a magic team. Very helpful for clearing certain stages, obviously, because of his ultimate, where it sucks everybody into the pool. But we're not going to worry about that. I mean, if I'm only buying him for PvE, I've got some better choices out there, no offense, than him. I'm not going to spend the money on Edwin anymore. That's just my recommendation. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. That's your choice. Now we come to the man of the hour, Vortex. You know, I think not much has changed in the top 1 or 2, other than now Lucifer and Vortex are kind of your hand-in-hand must-have legendary heroes. This guy does it all. Man, he stuns people across the field. He has a chain lightning thing that shoots and hits multiple people for AE. Pops out some Vortexes, which does more AE damage and drains energy. And then finally, when somebody receives an energy reduction effect, he gets energy from that. Let's just get my ultimate faster. You know, you pair him with people like Slash, or with people like Ariel over here, or any of the others that drain energy. You know, suddenly you got a guy that gets his ultimate super fast, drops that stun out, changes the whole field of the battle. Even at 3 stars, he's pretty awesome. I mean, so it's hard to complain about Vortex. I mean, who doesn't love the guy? He is expensive. He's not cheap. That's one of his big faults, you know. But he can work on a lot of teams. So overall, Vortex, really beefy guy. A lot of fun. Now, Haley, if you remember from a long time ago when Haley first came out, she was terrible. Well, they fixed that. Now she's really good. So for those of you that didn't get her when I said she was terrible, I'm sorry. And for those of you that did, congratulations. You beat me and many others into getting her. But she actually is a really good midliner. She's got a lot of great mobility. She jumps back and forth between all the different areas. She's got this ultimate, which is kind of cool sometimes, kind of not, because sometimes where it hits and where it doesn't hit is kind of hit or miss. You think maybe I can reach them all, and it doesn't. But when they're all stacked up, it's cool. But if you're in the middle of a jump, you can't use it till you land. So it's like, I want to cast my ultimate. I want to cast my ultimate. Oh, I gotta hurry, gotta hurry. And then, you know, she's midair, and somebody does something like Blaine silences, and you can't. So it'd be cool if you could cast the ultimate at any time, but it doesn't always work like that. Rest of her skills basically do pretty good. You know, she's increasing short critical time after sucking out someone's soul. She dashes forward and starts sending scythes everywhere. You know, and she jumps around back and forth. It's kind of cool. I mean, how she really can just dive in, hit, and jump back out. And then, of course, she's got these scythes that are running around all over, just doing damage to the team as they fly around and randomly hit people. She is good. She is costly. And that's probably one of the big weaknesses that you run into is, you know, how you're going to get her and how much it's going to cost to bring her up. Overall, just remember she is squishy, and sometimes it is tricky to get her ult off when you want it. But if you could have everything you want, you know, you're better than the most of us. You know, and so I do like Haley, but just remember, sometimes she has her issues. Now, on Noel and Snow, these are probably my two favorite buddies. I've seen them change the shape of many battles because of their ability to cause the person to pull into the next person, and then they can stun them and bring them together. You know, it's pretty cool how they work together over and over. This opposites attract. I love the fact that I've had smokes on my back line and suddenly they pop to my front line because Noel and Snow, they cause that to happen. Suddenly I don't have to worry about a backline smoke anymore. Their ultimate's kind of, you know, it takes a long time. It bounces everywhere. You never know where they're going to end up. That's sometimes an issue because suddenly your mage part, which is very squishy, ends up in the back line next to everybody and gets blown up. Or your tank, which you really want in the front, ends up somewhere else and you're like, oh my gosh, now I got to wait for him to run up there. The other issue is when one of them dies, and let's say you're doing an elite crusade, or no, not a crusade, crystal dungeon, or you're doing the team raid, you don't get another hero, you know, because it counts as one. So like, you know, until they're both dead, you're missing a slot, and they work great together, but separate. It's like, oh my gosh, really? So if one of them dies, you're down a man, like a fully functional person. You have half a person, which might help you, but I'd like a full person, please. That's just my opinion. So that's kind of one of their weaknesses. Now Naza, I don't know how you say it. People complain about how I talk all the time. I'm sorry. I'm a Texan. I don't know. I'm not really a Texan. I just live here. But I like Texas. But that's another story. He got a little update. Is a he, by the way. We checked under the skirt. But don't tell the Democrats that. So anyways, he got an update. It's gotten a lot better. Basically, his ultimate makes him immune to contrail, cold, and taunts. He pops up this thing. During this 4 seconds, he wards off one attack, and then he teleports in front of that person and does some damage, knocks him airborne, hits multiple people. And now, if, of course, he doesn't actually get anything during that time, then he just jumps to the person he was targeting and smacks him around anyway. So they kind of gave him a slight buff. No longer do you have to get hit in order for this to actually work how you want it. Now, then this one, he's waving 6 hands around, blocks incoming projectiles. Well, and this is pretty cool because it deflects one of them back, but he gets a power increase. It's good against teams that throw a lot of stuff at you, but if you're running into AE people that aren't throwing projectiles, like you don't have a Mira and you don't have a Gears or whatever coming at the tank, it doesn't do you any good in some ways, you know. So it's useful against certain people, but it also has to be during that time. If it's not during that time, then you're not blocking anything and you're taking damage. Basically, when taking damage, you got a 25% chance to get a spark. He can use them all at once. He heals and stores up to 4 sparks. If you ever seen Naza suddenly gain all this life back, it's because he's got all these sparks and he's used them. So it's kind of cool in his ability to sustain himself. Nothing like a tank that can heal themselves. And so every time he also takes damage, his armor and magic resist will increase. The stacks up to 10 times, and that's pretty awesome because who doesn't like a tank that heals himself and makes himself more tankier, as well as diving the back line and doing a knock up and damage. What's the bad side? Sometimes he gets burst down real quick. Sometimes, you know, you get to the end and the damage isn't great, but then sometimes this will be the last person standing on your team and they can't take it down because he's healing himself, blocking it, and popping people up. So, you know, it's okay. If he gets turned around, well, then he exposes his backside and he's going to get shredded. So it's one of those things where positioning does matter. Just be aware of that. And it costs a lot of money. And finally, the last one, Lucifer. I don't know. I just tried. Standing in this corner, we have a guy that will do immense amounts of damage to pretty much every stage in the game, totally breaking everything thought possible and upsetting everyone in your alliance because they don't have Lucifer. That's what we got right here. So this marksman is phenomenal for damage. You cannot take the top in Sky City when it's Lucifer's turn if you don't have Lucifer on your team. Why is that? Because the longer he stays alive, the more damage he does, and it is insane. Now, requires a team that builds crits, has to enter into his awakening stage to really get into the special part of it. But yeah, you know, if he gets there, he's going to drop the hammer and beat the dog out of you. It's amazing to watch him on a duel or something like that, whatever you want to call it, get to that stage, cast his ultimate, and the entire team dies on the other side. Or most of them. And then he gets a full energy bar and casts it again, and then they're dead. So yeah, I don't know what the negatives are, because the truth is, if you've got Lucifer, you're probably building a team around him, and you know what he's going to do. Part of the Wings of Origin team, you get that sucker rolling. It's just ugly. So no real, kind of like Vortex, no real negatives in the sense, yeah, he doesn't have any, you know, major crowd controls. I mean, he does, you know, when he gets into his Nether Scar 4, you know, basically the Nether Wave, he can do a stun too. I mean, gosh, what's there not to like? He's expensive. That's about it. So these here are your Legendaries heroes. There are your strengths and their weaknesses, according to me, which doesn't mean anything outside of this video or my channel. Let me know what you all think. I hope you all have a great one. I will talk to y'all later.